A big thanks to Squarespace for sponsoring this week's video.
Morning everybody, fantastic to see you all again. Well, I'm back in the Faroe Islands and in what is, I think, my favourite place on planet Earth. Well, of the small places on planet Earth that I've seen up to now. I just love it here, this amazing S-curve. I've taken so many wide-angled shots here, but what I want to do today is talk a little bit more about long lens photography and how, if you're struggling a little bit with photography, that shooting with a longer lens can massively help you find compositions. So I'm going to shoot today predominantly with my 50-140 on my Fuji X-T3, which is equivalent to a 70-200mm lens on a full frame. And I'm hopefully going to be shooting probably between, I don't know, 100 to 140 full frame equivalent, around that sort of focal length. Now the thing to remember when you're shooting with a long lens is that it allows you to simplify the scene. So if you look at this scene I'm in now, it's fairly easy to do a wide angle shot here because I'm in the Faroe Islands and it is spectacular. But usually in normal landscapes, you're going to struggle a little bit because there's going to be things that get in your way. You know, maybe it's going to be a little bit fussy in the foreground, the midground's going to be just messy or whatever. But using a long lens, you can just pick out those details that are going to really help simplify your compositions and help you get amazing photos. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to sort of look for some areas in the scene behind where I can spot maybe some cloud just coming down, some nice diagonal lines, just something that's just simplifying the scene a little bit. So there's somewhere over there, there's a nice ridge over there, and the light's just shining on it quite nicely, and the cloud is just coming down it, really lovely. So I'm going to go and shoot one there. Now, the advantage with a long lens, and certainly if everything's a long way away, is you don't need to worry about aperture too much. So I stick it on what I think is the best for this lens, which is around about f7. It's really bright, so I can hand hold it, which is the best really, because it means that I can just, you know, have the freedom of just walking around and finding compositions. And I'm just going to take a few shots. So let's go. One of the things that I really love with long lens photography is shooting clouds, and we got really lucky today because those clouds are changing so much. And it's the same whatever clouds you shoot, just thinking about the shape of those clouds and how they're sort of interacting with the landscape can really help your composition. There's quite a lot of the shots that I've taken, not just in the Faroe Islands, but you know, all over, where I've really thought about the composition or waited for a particular formation of cloud to come just to balance an image maybe, or just to make an image just stand out a little bit from the rest. So really thinking about those clouds can make a big difference. So you can see behind me now, the clouds are changing all the time, and there's a really nice sort of road up here. But what I really like as well is that the sort of hiding the mountain a little bit and adding a little bit of mystique to the shot. So again, I've got my 50-140 lens on f7. I've upped the ISO a little bit because I still want to hand hold it, and I'm not too bothered about that. There's no real need for any dynamic range, and you know, what little noise that might introduce is going to be so negligible, I'm not bothered about it. As long as I can hand hold it, then that's great. and I'm just going to try some different shots here in different orientations. And there's a river that comes down there which is just being uncovered now, which looks really spectacular. So we were going to go to what's called the floating lake, but it was so misty. By the way, it's day 3 now. We're going home today, which is a bit sad, but I'm going to finish off this long lens video, and we were going to go to this floating lake, which would have been really good, but unfortunately there was just too much mist. But the good news is that the mist is just creating this amazing shot on the mountain behind me, which is probably about there. And this is the mountain that we were at a few days ago. Mountain, sea stack, island, one of those things. Anyway, it's really, really spectacular. So this is definitely a long lens shot because obviously I've got to get really close. So what I'm trying to do though is just make it as simple as possible. And luckily we found a location. We went a little bit further up the road, but we've come back here because that was just a little bit almost like 2D. So we've come back to be able to get this little lighthouse to give a little bit of scale to the image in the shot. And just as I'm speaking now, it's clearing, so I need to get back there. In fact, I need to get my long lens quick. Helps if I have my camera. So again, I've got my 50 to 140 on my lens on my Fuji X-T3. And it's really bright, so I don't need to worry about the ISO. I can have it as low as possible. I've got it an aperture priority. I'm going to shoot at f/5.6 on it because there's no really depth that I need to worry about because everything's a long way away. And it's just a question of waiting for the clouds to come now. And it really helps if a bird flies through at the same time. Oh, the birds look so good. Wow, this is amazing. So I've also been taking the birds as they've been flying through the frame, because they just again just add something to the shot. And what I've tried as well, I tried it in portrait, but the landscape shot where there's just a bit of the green sort of grass just sort of leads your eye from the left hand side and looks really, really good. This is such a spectacular location. What a great end to an amazing few days. So James, you just arrived and you got your long lens. What's the point of that?
Well, long lens, tele lens, typically kind of my favourite focal lengths are all long focal lengths, but that's by the by, that's kind of personal preference. The reason that I start at a location with a long lens though is because often I don't really know what I want to include as a subject. Yeah. I don't know what kind of is going to make a good photo, and I find that by getting my tele lens out, I'm able to just get detail shots and therefore work out if kind of certain elements are interesting or not. And that's kind of a hangover from my days doing commercial stuff, because quite often if you're shooting for like a magazine or something, then detail shots will make up kind of a portion of the brief. And so if you can get the detail shots in early, great, but it also informs what might be the subject in your wider stuff.
That's interesting actually, because I don't go to a location thinking I need to get a wide and a telephoto, but I suppose in your background you needed to get all sorts of different focal lengths, didn't you?
Yeah, so even though I do a lot less commercial stuff now, it just helps tie everything together for me.
Yeah, it's a good way of thinking about it.
Yeah.
Good. Just need the clouds clear now.
It's not a bad spot, is it?
No, not bad. It'll do. it's time to go home, which is never good. But we've just come to this spot here, which is not far away from the airport, to try and catch some puffins. But unfortunately, there isn't any. So I don't think they like the cold, which is not a good thing. I think they like to come to land when it's warm. Somebody will probably correct me, tell me in the comments how I find puffins. But I was hoping to get some with my long lens. Luckily, when we first arrived here, I was out and I got some, so I'll show you some puffin photos in a minute. But yeah, I've used my long lens so much this trip actually. It's really been a bit of an eye-opener for me as well, because I've just found compositions that I probably wouldn't have looked at before. So, you know, this shot here behind me with a waterfall, just getting really close into where the water's just almost like curtaining at the bottom, and just having a very abstract shot with a long lens looks really good. So yeah, it's been a great trip, really fantastic. It's been fantastic to come here with another photographer as well and see his different styles, which is always really, really exciting. And look, it's just so amazing to be in such a beautiful place. It really is. Anyway, I just want to finish and just tell you a little bit about the sponsor of this video, which is Squarespace. You've heard it before, but just bear with me for a second, because one of the things that's really good, don't drop my phone, don't drop my phone, as long as you don't drop your phone, is if I just show you this, there is a great app on Squarespace for looking at your analytics, your portfolio, but I can also see if people have ordered things, so I can go on here and see if anybody's ordered a calendar when I produce them, or a print, and make sure that, you know, I can get back to them and make sure I can try and be as timely as I can. You know, it's not always easy for me to send the print straight away because I'm often traveling, but at least I can be in contact with that person, and Squarespace makes it really easy to do that. So if you want to have a look at it, go to squarespace.com, and if you've had a trial and you're ready to go with the full product, then you can get 10% off by using the discount code Nigel, or go to /Nigel. Oh, that's it. I can't wait to come back. I'm back here in 4 weeks running a workshop, and it certainly is a beautiful place in the summer and the winter of the Faroe Islands. Thanks ever so much for watching. Until next week, or until next Sunday, bye. Tricked you then. How do I get out of here? I'm stuck. Okay, phone away first. Just do this really ungracefully. Bye. So I don't often talk about how I film things and new bits of kit, but this is an amazing bit of kit that I've recently got, which is my slider from Chrome, and I've got all sorts of different attachments for it, but what I want to try and do is up the production quality of my videos. I want to try and do things a little bit different. So what I've just been doing, at the moment it's just taking a video, but what I've just been doing is doing it really slowly and doing a time lapse of this scene as the clouds move in the distance. And what I'm going to try and do is sort of add that into the B-roll. So I thought it'd be useful just from time to time just to tell you a little bit about what goes in the background of my videos. And so this is a slider. I can program it to do whatever I want backwards and forwards. I can put it on my tripod as well, and it'll go twice the distance, which is really clever. And I use it for getting those little bits of B-roll that take about an hour to film and you only see for about 4 seconds. But I think they just add to that production quality of the video. Oh, what an amazing spot.